This happened to me just over 2 years ago now. And even though enough time's passed for most people to say I should be over it, I still don't go running anymore. And I don't go anywhere alone after dark unless I absolutely have to, because I know what happened wasn't a misunderstanding or paranoia. It was real, and I was lucky it didn't end worse than it did. At the time, I was living in a share house in Logan with 2 other girls. Both of them worked mornings, and I did nights at a petrol station just off the highway, so I'd be up later than them. And when I wasn't working, I'd often go for runs late at night, around 10 or 11, sometimes later if I couldn't sleep because I liked the quiet, and the streets around our area were mostly calm at that hour. Plus, I always stuck to the same route, which went around the block and past the local park. Nothing isolated, just a basic loop I'd done 100 times before. So it was a Thursday night in late September, and I remember that because the weather had just started to warm up again, and I was halfway through my run when I cut across the front of the park like I usually did. It wasn't dark, because there's streetlights on both sides, and I could see across the playground and the trees clear as anything. I ran a little further before I noticed a man, or what looked like a man, just standing completely still under the tree near the barbecue area, leaning back like he was relaxing or waiting for someone. I slowed down a bit because something about how still he was didn't feel right. And then I noticed he was holding something, not just hanging by his side, but cradled in both hands across his stomach. And when I looked properly, I could see it was an axe, not a toy one or a hatchet, but a proper full-length axe, like the kind you'd use to cut firewood. Naturally, I didn't stop. I just turned straight down the opposite path that looped toward the shops and picked up my pace. Not running flat out because I didn't want to make it obvious as I was panicking, but fast enough that if he did try to follow, I'd be well ahead. I didn't hear footsteps or anything behind me, and when I looked back at the far end of the street, I couldn't see him anymore. So I tried to tell myself he was just some weird guy cutting branches or clearing something, even though that didn't make sense. When I got home, I locked the door and checked every window, even though I knew I hadn't been followed, and I didn't say anything to my housemates, because I figured maybe I was overreacting, maybe he was counsel, maybe there was some explanation. But the thing is, he didn't have a bag or any tools or anything with him, just the axe. And the way he stood there wasn't like someone on the job, but like someone waiting that might have had bad intentions. And because of the off vibe I felt, I didn't go running for a few nights after that. And I kept thinking maybe I was being dramatic. But then on Sunday night, when I was getting ready to go to work, I noticed someone standing across the road from our house. Not close, not doing anything, just standing on the other side under the streetlight and looking in our direction. I couldn't see his face properly because he had a hood up and he was half turned, but the build looked the same and the way he stood was the same, just completely still like before. And I stood there behind the curtain for maybe a minute watching him before I grabbed my keys and quietly locked the back door, just in case. I told myself again, maybe it was nothing. Maybe he was waiting for someone or lived nearby and was having a smoke. But the next night, it happened again. And this time it wasn't the same guy across the road. It was someone down the street a little further. Same posture, standing still, facing our way, not moving. And that time I didn't wait. I called one of the girls and told her I thought someone had been watching the house a few nights in a row. She said she hadn't seen anything, but would keep an eye out, and that I should call the cops next time, which sounded like the right idea. But part of me still didn't want to be the one who made a big deal over maybe nothing. So I just told myself, if it happened again, I'd report it. The next time wasn't outside though, it was at work. And that's when I stopped second-guessing myself, because about 4 nights later, just after midnight, I was working the register and saw a guy come in wearing the same hooded jumper I'd seen on the person outside the house, same color, same shape. And I got that feeling in my stomach again, like the air around me just dropped a couple degrees. He didn't say anything when he walked in, just wandered the aisles. And I kept watching him from the mirror behind the counter. He didn't pick anything up, didn't even really look at the shelves, just kept walking slowly up and down until he stopped at the end of the drinks fridge and looked straight at the mirror. Not at me, not at the camera, but at the mirror, like he knew I was watching. I tried to act normal, asked if he needed help, but he didn't answer, just stared. And then after maybe 15 seconds, he turned and walked straight out without buying anything. And the second he left, I locked the doors and called my manager, who told me to report it to the police, which I did. And they took a statement and said they'd check CCTV, but I never heard back about it. I didn't go home that night. I went to my sister's place instead and stayed there for the week. And during that time, my housemates said they didn't see anything strange. But when I finally went back to get some stuff from my room, I found something stuck under the edge of my bedroom window, outside wedged in the screen frame, and it was a rolled-up note with no words on it. Just a drawn picture in black ink of a house with 3 windows, and one of them was colored in red. I didn't stay another night in that house, and I didn't go back to work at that servo either. And I don't care if it was a prank, or if someone thought it was funny, or if it was something worse, because I've never felt fear like that before. And I don't plan on ever giving someone the chance to make me feel it again.